A rich man changed his daily routine for a woman in Alaska. She noticed why. The morning in Alaska does not arrive gently. It presses itself into the world. Snow clings to the edges of the road like unfinished thoughts. The sky stays dim long after the clock insists it is morning. Engines protest before they start. Breath turns white the moment it leaves the mouth. She notices him before she notices the cold. He is already there. The same truck. The same quiet pull-off near the bend in the road. The same man standing beside it. Hands in his pockets, facing the highway as if waiting for something that never quite arrives. Except today, he is early. Not by much. 15 minutes, maybe. But in a town where people measure their lives by routine and daylight, 15 minutes matters. She knows this because she has driven this road every morning for almost a year. Same departure time. Same stretch of ice that never fully melts. Same gas station sign flickering like it might finally give up. And always, until recently, the same empty turnout. She slows without meaning to. Her tires crunch softly against packed snow. The heater hums. Her hands tighten on the steering wheel. The man does not look at her. He never does. He stands tall, shoulders squared against the cold, dressed plainly. No insignia, no flash, just a dark coat, worn boots, and the kind of stillness that suggests discipline rather than boredom. A rich man, though she does not know that yet. What she knows is this. 3 weeks ago, he was not part of her mornings. And now somehow he is. She drives past him, eyes forward, pulls slightly faster than it should be. In Alaska, you learn early not to invite attention. Curiosity can be dangerous. Dependence even more so. In her rearview mirror, she sees him get back into his truck. He waits until she merges fully onto the highway before pulling out behind her. Always at a distance. Always careful. It bothers her more than if he were obvious. 3 weeks earlier, the night had been worse. The storm came fast, the kind that erases sound and direction at the same time. Her car stalled just short of this same bend, engine coughing once before surrendering. No cell signal. No houses. Only wind and snow swallowing the road. She had prepared for that kind of night her entire life. Extra gloves. Emergency blanket. A flare she hoped never to use. What she had not prepared for was him. The truck headlights appeared out of the white like something unreal. He stopped without hesitation. Did not ask where she was going. Did not ask her name. He checked her engine. Wordless, efficient, hands steady even as the wind cut through them. He handed her a thermos. Coffee. Hot. He stood between her and the road while she waited inside his truck. Heater blasting, silence heavy but not uncomfortable. When her car finally turned over again, he stepped back as if the moment had already passed. No questions. No invitation. No phone number. Just a nod. Since then, she has seen him again and again. Always on this road. Always at roughly the same time. Always positioned where the curve is sharpest and the ice is most treacherous. And always, slowly, earlier. She tells herself it is coincidence. That people in small towns overlap. That the human brain looks for patterns because it needs control. But today, 15 minutes is too precise. At the next light, she glances at the clock on the dashboard. She did not leave earlier. She did not speed up. The only variable that changed is him. Her chest tightens, not with fear, but with something quieter and more dangerous. Being noticed. She pulls into the parking lot of the small medical supply warehouse where she works. As she parks, she sees his truck continue past the turnoff, heading north, away from town, toward nothing but trees and frozen ground. He is not slow. He does not look back. Inside, the building is warm and fluorescent, the kind of place where time loses its edges. She goes through the motions of her morning, scanning invoices, logging deliveries, answering the same questions she answers every day. But her thoughts stay on the road. On the way home that evening, she tests something. She leaves later than usual. The sky has already begun to darken, the blue draining out of it like ink from water. The temperature drops fast. The road feels different at this hour, less forgiving. As she approaches the bend, her heart thumps once hard. The turnout is empty. Relief washes over her, sharp and unexpected. She exhales, realizing only then that she had been holding her breath. Then headlights flick on behind her. In a mirror, she sees the same truck pull into the turnout as she passes, engine idling, lights steady. He is there. Even now, she keeps driving, pulse loud in her ears. The question forms before she can stop it. Why would a man change his entire routine for someone he barely knows? And why does it feel like he has been protecting her long before she ever noticed? Alaska teaches people how to live quietly. Out here, survival does not come from speed or ambition. It comes from repetition, from learning which sounds matter and which do not, from doing the same small things every day until they hold you together. The cold stays outside. Inside, life is built in layers of warmth. Her cabin sits just far enough from town that the road noise never reaches it. A narrow driveway carved into snowbanks. A porch light that casts a soft amber circle onto untouched white. No declarations. No exes. Everything she owns has a purpose. When she steps inside at night, the first thing she hears is breathing. Two dogs lift their heads from the rug near the stove. Thick fur, patient eyes. They do not rush her. They wait, tails thumping slowly against the floorboards. Dogs in Alaska learn early that energy is something you can serve. She hangs her coat on the same hook every night, kicks her boots free with practiced ease. Snow melts into a small, predictable puddle by the door. The heater clicks on. The cabin exhales. Cold outside, warm inside. That is the rule. She feeds the dogs first. Always. The routine anchors her. Scoop. Bowl. Water refreshed from the kettle. She keeps warm on the stove all winter. Steam curls upward, fogging the window that looks out onto nothing but trees and darkness. Silence presses in, but it is not empty. It hums. The wood stove crackles softly. The wind moves through the trees with a low, distant sigh. Somewhere far off, something howls, not in fear, but in announcement. Alaska does not whisper. It speaks plainly. She pours herself a cup of tea and sits at the small table by the window. The same chair. The same view. Snow falling at an angle, illuminated by the porch light like drifting ash. This is how she heals. Not by fixing what broke, but by choosing predictability over chaos. Her past taught her what happens when life moves too fast. When people promise safety but bring instability instead. When affection comes with conditions. Here, nothing is rushed. Nothing is demanded. Even the dogs understand that. She read for a while. The same book she has been moving through slowly, page by page, night after night. Not because it is thrilling, but because it is familiar. Because familiarity is a kind of medicine. Later, she steps outside one last time. The cold bites immediately, sharp and honest. Her breath blooms in front of her face. She checks the generator, taps the fuel gauge, listens. Everything sounds right. Everything sounds as it should. Across the road, the forest stands dark and unmoving. She does not feel watched. She does not feel alone. The difference matters. Inside, she locks the door and draws the curtains. The cabin becomes a pocket of light in a world that does not care whether you exist or not. Across town, in another quiet space, the rich man finishes his evening the same way he has for weeks. His cabin is larger, better insulated, more expensive in ways that are invisible unless you know what to look for. Reinforced beams, high-grade windows, a generator that could power 3 homes. None of that brings him comfort. What brings him comfort is the clock. He sets it deliberately, earlier than necessary, earlier than before. He prepares his coffee the night before, measuring the grounds with precision, lays out his clothes, checks the weather report even though he already knows what it will say. Cold, snow, wind, perfect. He feeds his own dog, a broad-shouldered animal with a scar along one ear. A rescue, not because he needed saving, but because the man recognized something familiar in the way the dog watched the door. He eats simply. Protein, heat, no indulgence. His life has been stripped down to essentials by choice, not circumstance. At the table, he studies a map of the road, the bend, the turnout, the distance between points measured not in miles, but in minutes. 15 minutes earlier. That is all it takes. Not control, not ownership, just presence. He does not tell himself he is protecting her. He does not name it at all. Naming things makes them complicated. It invites questions he is not ready to answer. What he knows is, this routine saved him once. When everything else fell apart, routine was what kept him standing. And now, quietly, without announcement, he is offering the same thing. In Alaska, people do not heal through grand gestures. They heal through mornings that arrive on time, through lights that are on when they should be, through knowing that if something goes wrong, someone will already be there, not because they were asked, but because they planned to be. Tomorrow morning, the road will still be icy. The bend will still be dangerous. And two lives, moving separately, will continue to orbit the same small stretch of frozen asphalt, bound together not by words, but by rhythm. Neither of them will call it love. Not yet. But Alaska knows the difference between coincidence and care. The rich man wakes before the light, not because he has to, but because he chooses to. The cabin is dark and still when his eyes open. No alarm, no sudden noise, just the quiet awareness that morning is approaching. He lies there for a moment, breathing slow, listening to the structure of the silence. Wind against the outer walls, the faint tick of cooling metal. His dog shifts once on the floor, then settles again. This is not how his life used to begin. There was a time when mornings meant calendars packed in 15-minute blocks, phones lighting up before his feet touched the floor, decisions stacking faster than they could be made. His wealth had given him speed, access, power. It had not given him rest. Alaska stripped all of that away. Now, his routine is deliberate. He rises, makes the bed with precise movements, smoothing the blanket flat. Discipline is not about control here. It is about respect. For space. For time. For the day ahead. He dresses in layers. Thermal shirt. Wool. Heavy coat. Everything neutral. Nothing that draws attention. He moves through the cabin with economy, turning on only the lights he needs. He does not rush, but he does not linger. Outside, the cold is immediate and bracing. The air smells clean, sharp enough to wake every sense at once. He steps onto the porch and looks at the sky. Cloud cover is thin. Visibility will be good. The road will still be dangerous. It always is. He feeds his dog, then prepares his own breakfast. Simple, measured, enough to sustain him, not enough to distract him. He eats standing, eyes on the clock mounted above the sink. Time matters, not because he fears wasting it, but because he understands what it can do when handled carefully. He cleans his dishes, wipes the counter, checks the generator. Everything is done in the same order every morning, not out of obsession, but because repetition removes uncertainty. When the world once felt like it was unraveling, routine had been the only thing that stayed intact. That is how he healed, not through therapy sessions or grand revelations, but through doing the same right things every day, even when no one was watching. Especially when no one was watching. He steps into his truck and starts the engine. It idles low, steady. He lets it warm fully before moving, even though it costs time. Cutting corners is how people get stranded out here. The drive toward the road is quiet. Snowbanks rise like walls on either side. Trees stand tall and indifferent. Alaska does not care who you are or what you own. It only responds to preparation. As he approaches the turnout, he slows. This is where his routine changes. 15 minutes earlier than it used to be. He parks and turns off the engine. The silence rushes back in. He steps out and stands beside the truck, hands in his pockets, breath visible. From here, he can see the bend clearly. He can see headlights long before they reach the dangerous curve. He does not scan the road anxiously. He does not pace. He simply waits. This is not a sacrifice. It is a choice. He tells himself he would be here even if she did not pass this way anymore. That the road deserves attention regardless. That safety is not personal. But the truth is quieter. Where a car appears, something in him settles. He does not wave. He does not signal. He does not step forward. He remains exactly where he is, a fixed point in a landscape that shifts constantly. When she passes, he gets back into his truck and follows at a distance, matching her speed, ready if something goes wrong. He does this every morning. No recognition. No expectación. After she turns off toward town, he continues north, driving until the road opens into nothing. He stops there sometimes, engine off, looking out at the expanse of white and gray. It reminds him how small even the richest man is out here. Later, he works remotely, quietly. His wealth operates in the background, invisible but vast. Calls are scheduled tightly. Decisions are made without ceremony. His voice is calm, controlled, rarely raised. People listen when he speaks, not because he demands it, but because he never wastes words. By early afternoon, he is done. He could do more. He could chase growth, expansion, influence. Instead, he maintains capacity without display. In the evening, he repeats the process in reverse. Checks the road again, this time from distance. Makes sure the light at the bend is clear. Watches until the last of the town traffic fades. Only then does he return home. He eats. He reads. He sits in silence. This routine does not make him feel powerful. It makes him feel steady. And for a man who once had everything except peace, that is more than enough. He does not know if she understands what he is doing. He does not need her to. Healing does not ask for permission. It simply shows up every day at the same time and stays. She does not plan to meet him. That matters. In Alaska, nothing meaningful happens because someone forces it. People cross paths because the land allows it, not because intention demands it. The morning she enters his world properly, it is unremarkable by every measurable standard. The temperature sits just below zero. The sky is pale and flat. The road holds its breath under a thin layer of ice that looks harmless until it is not. She is running late. Not panicked late, just enough to disrupt her usual rhythm. One of the dogs refused to eat. The generator coughed longer than normal. Small things, manageable things. But Alaska teaches you that small disruptions deserve respect. As she approaches the bend, she eases off the accelerator. And for the first time since she noticed his routine, she pulls over. Not because she is curious, not because she wants answers, but because the road feels wrong. She parks several yards behind his truck, leaving distance on purpose. She steps out, boots crunching softly against the snow. The cold wraps around her instantly, sharp but familiar. The rich man turns when he hears her door close. This is the first time they face each other in daylight without crisis between them. He does not look surprised. He does not smile. He simply waits. She stops a few feet away, hands visible, posture relaxed. No sudden movements. No invasion of space. The dogs are not with her, but the way she stands tells him everything he needs to know. She is not here to take. She speaks first, voice calm, measured, carried cleanly through the cold. I thought I should tell you, she says. The ice past the bend is worse today. That is it. No name. No question. No explanation. He nods once. Thank you. The exchange lasts less than 10 seconds. She turns back to her car without waiting for more. That is the moment something shifts. Not attraction, not trust, recognition. Over the next week, their interactions remain exactly like that. Brief, functional, respectful. Sometimes she pulls over for a moment to stretch her legs. Sometimes he mentions a weather change coming early. They never ask where the other is going. They never ask why the other is here. There is no curiosity to satisfy. Curiosity, in her experience, always comes with an agenda. Safety does not. One morning, her tire pressure light flickers on. She notices it immediately and slows, easing into the turnout without urgency. She steps out, already assessing the situation. Before she reaches the rear tire, the rich man is beside her, crouched low, checking the tread. He works quickly, efficiently, without commentary. Slow leak, he says. You can make it to town, but not back. I can take the longer route home, she replies. He shakes his head once. That road drifts worse after dark. She considers this, then nods. I will stay late. No, he says, then pauses. Adjusts. I mean, I can follow you out later. If you want. He does not frame it as protection. He frames it as logistics. She appreciates that. Okay, she says. They do not exchange phone numbers. They do not set a time. They trust the routine to hold. That evening, She sees his headlights in the mirror exactly when she expects to. Not close. Not distant. Steady. At the turnoff to her cabin road, she slows and signals. He continues straight, then stops farther down, waiting until she disappears into the trees before driving on. He never follows her home. That detail matters more than anything else. One night, a storm moves in faster than forecast. The wind rises suddenly, snow thickening until visibility drops to almost nothing. She pulls over instinctively, hazard lights blinking. Within moments, his truck is behind her, angled slightly to block the wind. He does not approach immediately. He waits. She steps out first, giving the signal that she is all right with his presence. Only then does he come closer, voice raised just enough to carry. "Do you want to wait it out?" he asks. She scans the road, the sky, the snow whipping sideways. "Yes," she says. They sit in their separate vehicles, engines running, lights cutting through the white. No conversation, no radio, just the shared decision to pause instead of push through. After 20 minutes, the storm eases. She pulls back onto the road. He follows. Healing, she realizes later, does not always feel like relief. Sometimes it feels like predictability, returning to a place where it once disappeared. The rich man never offers her help she does not ask for. He never comments on her schedule. He never changes his tone. His presence is consistent enough that it fades into the background, and that is exactly what makes it safe. One morning, as she passes him, she lifts a hand briefly from the steering wheel. Not a wave, an acknowledgement. He does not respond right away. Then, slowly, he lifts his hand in return. The movement is small, almost restrained. It is enough. If you have ever lived in a place where silence kept you alive, you understand this language. You understand why someone standing quietly in the cold can feel safer than 100 words spoken too quickly. You understand why trust does not arrive all at once, but piece by piece, morning by morning. And maybe, without realizing it, you begin to notice the people in your own life who show up this way. Not loudly, not dramatically, just there, every day, on time. The first real contact does not happen on the road. It happens somewhere warmer. Later that week, the cold sharpens without warning. The temperature drops fast, the kind of drop that makes metal complain and joints ache. By late afternoon, the town seems to pull inward, lights coming on early, doors closing with more care than usual. She stops at the only diner still open past 6. It is not charming in a way that tries too hard. Vinyl booze worn smooth by decades of coats and denim. A counter that smells like coffee no matter how often it is wiped down. Windows fog from the difference between the cold outside and the heat fighting to stay alive inside. She chooses the booth near the window, the one she always chooses. Back to the wall. Clear view of the door. Safety, quietly designed. She orders soup. Always soup when the cold gets in her bones. The bell above the door rings a minute later. She does not look up right away. She knows who it is by the shift in the room. Not tension, not curiosity, just recognition. The rich man steps inside, brushing snow from his coat. He pauses briefly, eyes adjusting, scanning the space with the same calm assessment he gives the road every morning. When his gaze reaches her, it stops. Not because he planned it, because there is nowhere else for it to go. He does not approach immediately. He orders coffee at the counter. Black. He waits for the mug to be poured, nods his thanks, then turns slightly toward her booth, stopping a few feet away. Close enough to speak, far enough to leave her choice intact. "Is this seat taken?" he asks, voice low, neutral. She looks up then. For the first time, she studies him without the filter of distance or wind or headlights. He looks the same as he does outside, unadorned. Still, there is no attempt to soften his presence. "No," she says. "Go ahead." He slides into the booth across from her, setting his coffee down, carefully aligning it with the edge of the table. The movement is precise but unforced. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The diner fills the space for them. The clink of a spoon against ceramic. The murmur of two truckers talking weather. The hiss of the grill in the back. Warm but quiet. "This place stays open longer than most," he says finally. "It does," she agrees. They know when people need somewhere warm. He nods as if filing that away. She eats a spoonful of soup, unhurried. He takes a sip of coffee. No one rushes to fill the silence. After a while, she speaks again. You did not have to wait the other night, she says. Not accusatory, just factual. I know, the rich man replies. That is all. No justification. No explanation. She considers him for a moment, then nods once. The matter is closed. They sit like that for several minutes, sharing space without trying to shape it. When the waitress comes by, he orders nothing else. He does not ask her what she is having. He does not offer to pay. When the check arrives, she reaches for it without looking at him. He does not stop her. Another detail that matters. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the window. Snow slides down the glass in thin sheets. You drive that road every morning, she says, not a question. Yes, he answers. She waits. He does not add anything. Me too, she says. I know. Something in her expression shifts, just slightly. Not surprise. Acceptance. They finish their meals. When she stands, he stands as well, not rushing, not lingering. At the door, they pause as another gust of cold forces its way inside. Safe drive, he says. You too. She steps out first, pulling her coat tighter, breath blooming white. He follows a moment later, keeping distance until she reaches her car. They part there, each moving in a different direction. The next morning, the routine holds. He is at the turnout. She passes. The world remains intact. But something subtle has changed. The silence between them is no longer empty. It is shared. Healing does not always announce itself. Sometimes it looks like two people acknowledging each other without trying to claim more than the moment offers. No romance, no curiosity, just warmth, briefly touching, then releasing. And for both of them, that is enough to keep going. The shift begins without announcement. No storm, no crisis, no visible reason for anything to change. That is what makes it matter. The rich man does not alter his morning routine. He wakes before light. He checks the road. He waits at the turnout. She passes. The rhythm holds, clean and intact. Then, instead of driving north into the empty miles, he turns back toward town. He parks behind the medical supply warehouse where she works. The building is functional in the way Alaska buildings have to be. Metal siding, no wasted angles. A loading bay that smells faintly of cardboard, fuel, and disinfectant. A place built to endure, not impress. He steps inside, carrying nothing but gloves. At the front desk, the clerk looks up, surprised. You here for delivery? She asks. No, the rich man says. I was told you might need an extra set of hands. She studies him. Tall, quiet, not dressed like the men who usually ask for work here. We are short today, she says slowly. You know this is not paid, right? I know. Another pause. All right, she says. Doc is around back. He nods once and walks through without another word. For the next 4 hours, the rich man works. He unloads crates. He sorts supplies. He carries boxes heavier than they look, moving carefully, never rushing, never showing strain. His movements are efficient, practiced in a way that suggests not strength alone, but discipline. No one asks where he came from. No one asks why he is there. In Alaska, people learn early not to question help that does not come with conditions. She notices him an hour into her shift. Not because he draws attention, but because he does not. He blends into the background of labor so completely that it takes her a moment to register the wrongness of it. This man, who stands at the turnout every morning with nothing to gain, is now here, lifting boxes as if this is exactly where he belongs. Her first reaction is not suspicion. It is irritation. Not outwardly, not sharply, just a tightening behind the ribs. She finishes logging an order and walks toward the dock, boots echoing softly against concrete. When she stops a few feet from him, he senses her presence before she speaks. You do not work here, she says. He sets a crate down gently. No, you do not need to work here. No, the words land between them, simple and complete. She waits for the explanation that does not come. He does not justify himself. He does not smile. He does not look at her like he expects gratitude. That unsettles her more than if he had. This is my space, she says. Calm, even. I do not invite people into it lightly. I understand. That is all. She studies him, looking for something that would explain this. Charity, guilt, curiosity, something. She finds none. Finish the shift, she says finally. Then leave. He nods, returns to work. She turns away, unsettled in a way she does not like. This was not intrusion, she realizes. This was presence, then withdrawal. At lunch, she eats alone in her usual spot. He eats outside, sitting on an overturned crate, thermos in hand. He does not attempt to join her. He does not look toward the window. Again, a detail that matters. By mid-afternoon, the warehouse runs smoother than usual. Orders move faster. No one is scrambling. The quiet efficiency is undeniable. At the end of the shift, he removes his gloves and sets them neatly on the counter. Thank you, the clerk says. You can come back anytime. He nods. I will not. He turns to leave. She intercepts him near the door. Why, she asks. It is the first real question she has asked him. The rich man does not answer. He meets her gaze, steady and unguarded, and says only, I needed to know something. Her irritation sharpens. About me? No, that is the twist. Not because it is clever, because it is honest. She exhales slowly, something loosening and tightening at the same time. Then do not do it again, she says. Not angry, not pleading. A boundary clearly placed. I will not, he replies. He keeps that promise. The next day, he does not show up at the warehouse. The routine returns to its previous shape. Road, turnout, distance. But something has shifted. Now she knows he is capable of stepping into her world without taking it over. Now she knows he will leave when asked. That knowledge is heavier than attraction. That evening, she finds herself thinking about the way he lifted the boxes. The care he took not to slam anything down. The way he watched the edges, the corners, the places where things could break if handled carelessly. She does not wonder who he is. She wonders what it cost him to learn that kind of restraint. The rich man returns to his cabin and resumes his routine as if nothing has happened. He feeds his dog. He eats. He sits in silence. But the shift lingers. Not because of what he did. Because of what she did not do. She did not thank him. She did not soften. She did not invite more. She simply named her boundary and trusted him to respect it. That is rare. That night, the wind howls harder than usual, rattling the windows. The road will be dangerous in the morning. He sets his alarm. 15 minutes earlier than before. Not to help. Not to intervene. Just to be there. The question the hook asked has been answered, partially. Yes, he changes routine. But now a new question forms, quieter and more unsettling. What happens when the woman he did it for does not need saving at all? The days that follow are quieter than before. Not because anything has been resolved, but because something unspoken now occupies the space between them. The rich man keeps his routine unchanged. Morning still comes early. The turnout still receives him before the sun lifts fully from the horizon. He stands in the same place, hands in his pockets, watching the bend with the same attention he always has. But now, when she passes, there is weight behind the moment. Not acknowledgement, not rejection, awareness. She feels it first in her chest, a subtle tightening that has nothing to do with fear. The road is the same. The ice is the same. The risk is unchanged. And yet, something inside her registers his presence differently. She does not wave. Neither does he. That absence is deliberate. At work, she moves through her tasks with her usual efficiency. Orders logged. Supplies checked. Calls answered. The building hums with its predictable rhythms. But her thoughts drift in ways she does not invite. She catches herself replaying the sound of his voice from the warehouse. Not the words. The restraint. I needed to know something. Not about her. That sentence echoes more than it should. During lunch, she sits by the window and watches the road. Trucks pass. Snow shifts. Life continues in its unremarkable way. She takes a slow breath, then another, grounding herself in the physical sensation of air filling her lungs, leaving them again. This is what healing looks like for her. Not solving the question, letting it exist without demanding an answer. Across town, the rich man feels the tension differently. He does not question his decision to help at the warehouse. He does not regret stepping into her space and stepping out again when asked. What unsettles him is not her boundary. It is how clearly she held it. He has spent years around people who mistake compliance for trust, who soften when they want something and harden when they do not get it. Her response did neither. She named what mattered to her and expected him to respect it. He did. That expectation lingers. At night, the wind presses harder than usual against his cabin. He sits at the table, hands wrapped around a mug he has forgotten to drink from, staring at the map of the road laid out in front of him. Not to plan, just to observe. The distance between the turnout and the warehouse. Between the warehouse and her turnoff. Measured now not in miles, but in choices. He could leave. He could return to a life where his presence is assumed, his resources unquestioned, his motives rarely examined. He could go back to places where silence is uncomfortable and must be filled. Instead, he stays. Not because of her, because this silence feels honest. The next morning, the temperature drops further. The kind of cold that slows everything down, forcing patience into every movement. She leaves her cabin earlier, adjusting her schedule without consciously deciding to. When she reaches the bend, he is already there. She slows, eyes forward, posture steady. For a moment, she considers stopping. She does not. Some distances need to be held, not crossed. He watches her car pass, noting the slight adjustment in her speed, the careful way she handles the turn. He feels the familiar pull to follow, to ensure, to hover. He resists it. Instead, he waits longer than usual before getting back into his truck. Space is also a form of care. Later that day, they cross paths again at the diner, unintentionally. The place is quieter than usual, only a few patrons scattered among the booths. She enters first, orders tea, and takes her usual seat. He comes in minutes later, stops when he sees her, then continues to the counter. He does not ask to sit with her. She does not invite him. They share the same room, separated by distance that feels intentional rather than awkward. From where she sits, she can see him in the reflection of the window. The way he holds his mug, the stillness of his posture, the absence of distraction. He is not checking a phone. He is not scanning the room. He is simply present. She notices her shoulders relax slightly, not toward him, toward herself. If you're listening to this and feel your own breath speeding up without realizing it, this is your moment to slow it down. Inhale through your nose. Hold for a count of 2. Exhale slowly. There is no rush here. The tension between them does not resolve that day, nor the next. It stretches quietly across mornings and evenings, across the road and the diner and the spaces in between. It is not romantic. Not yet. It is the tension of two people who are learning how not to reach too quickly. One evening, as she leaves the diner, she pauses by the door, glancing back once. He looks up at the same moment. Their eyes meet. Nothing passes between them. No smile. No question. Just recognition of the distance that exists and the mutual decision to keep it intact. She steps outside into the cold. He remains where he is. That night, both of them sleep less deeply than usual. Not because of unrest, because awareness has entered the routine. Healing does not always bring comfort immediately. Sometimes it brings clarity, and clarity demands patience. The road will still be there tomorrow. So will the turnout. So will the silence that now holds something unspoken, waiting not to be filled, but to be understood. And for now, that is enough to keep listening. The routine does not break. It flexes. That is how Alaska teaches change to happen. Mornings still begin with cold that stings the lungs and light that arrives late. The bend in the road still demands respect. The turnout still exists, carved into snow and habit. But the rhythm is no longer symmetrical. Some mornings, the rich man arrives and leaves without seeing her at all. Other mornings, she passes first, already gone before he reaches the bend. The road holds both truths without explanation. Routine repeats, but it does not feel the same. One afternoon, movement enters quietly. It is not dramatic, not urgent. A pickup truck belonging to an older man from town stalls just past the bend. Steam curls from beneath the hood. The driver stands beside it, shoulders hunched, more frustrated than afraid. The rich man stops. Not because he feels responsible, because this is what he does. He checks the engine, listens, then shakes his head. Frozen line, he says. You will not get it running like this. The older man sighs. I figured. There is no rescue narrative. No hero moment. Just logistics. The rich man offers a tow to the gas station. The older man accepts. No gratitude beyond a nod. No story exchanged. As they drive, the rich man listens more than he speaks. He learns nothing of importance, and that is fine. Later, as he unhooks the tow cable, the older man glances at him. You always around here? Yes, the rich man says. Good, the man replies. Road needs watching. That is the end of it. The next morning, she hears about it without trying to. A co-worker mentions the stalled truck while they sort supplies. Casual, unremarkable. Just one more example of how people help each other here without ceremony. She pauses for half a second longer than necessary. She does not ask who helped. She already knows. The roadwork north of the bend finishes sooner than expected. The warning note he left becomes obsolete. She keeps it anyway, folded once, tucked into the pocket of her coat she rarely uses. Not because it matters, because it existed. That evening, as she locks up the warehouse, she notices something small. A different truck parked across the street. Expensive, though no logo announces it. Clean lines. Out of place, if you know what to look for. The rich man is not near it. She does not stare. She does not slow. But something registers. Not suspicion. Memory. Years ago, long before Alaska, she learned how wealth announces itself even when it tries not to. The weight of doors. The quiet confidence of engines. The way some people move as if space has already been cleared for them. She files the observation away without attaching it to him. Past comes quietly, but it does not stay long. The next few days bring small shifts. Once she slips slightly on the ice near the bend. Nothing dramatic, just enough to throw her balance. She recovers on her own, steadying herself with a gloved hand against the car door. From a distance, the rich man sees it happen. He does not rush forward. He does not call out. He waits. She straightens, nods to herself, then drives on. He exhales only after her car disappears from view. Rescue, she has taught him, is sometimes knowing when not to intervene. At the diner later that week, they sit at separate tables again. The place is fuller than usual. A group of construction workers laugh loudly near the counter. The air smells of grease and coffee and melting snow. She catches his eye once, briefly. He looks away first. Not because he must, because the moment has been acknowledged. Routine, repeated but altered. One night, the past arrives again, quieter this time. The rich man receives a call after midnight. The phone vibrates against the table, a sound that feels foreign now. He answers without urgency, stepping outside, so the cabin does not have to hear what follows. The voice on the other end is from a life he left deliberately. Controlled, efficient, expectant. They speak for less than 3 minutes. When the call ends, he stands in the cold longer than necessary, letting the air settle his pulse. He does not feel pulled back, only reminded. In the morning, he resets nothing. The road remains the priority. She senses something different that day, though she cannot name it. The way he stands feels heavier, more inward, still present, but carrying something she does not reach for. She does not ask. He does not offer. That afternoon, she finds the older man from the stalled truck dropping off a box of supplies at the warehouse. He mentions the tow again, chuckling. Guy will not even take gas money, he says. Just said to pass it on. She nods, heart steady. Passing it on is not generosity. It is alignment. When she drives home that evening, the sky opens briefly, revealing a pale band of light near the horizon. She slows, not because the road demands it, but because something inside her does. In the mirror, she sees his headlights appear, then fall back. Always distance, always choice. If you're listening and feel the pace of this story change slightly, that is intentional. Life rarely moves in straight lines when healing is involved. It circles. It revisits. It introduces motion not to disrupt, but to test stability. The routine holds, but it now contains memory, restraint, and quiet acts that ripple outward without asking to be seen. Neither of them names what is happening. Neither of them needs to. The road continues to be watched. The past continues to knock softly, then leave. And something between them continues to grow, not louder, but more grounded, as if learning how to exist without needing to prove itself at all. The consequence arrives the way most real ones do. Quietly, without accusation, without drama. The morning begins. Like any other. Cold, steady, predictable. The rich man reaches the turnout at his usual time and stands watching the bend, hands in his pockets, breath slow and controlled. She passes later than usual. Not late enough to worry, just enough to notice. She drives carefully, posture steady, eyes forward. When she clears the bend, she does not slow. She does not look back. He lets her go. That part has become easy. What has not become easy is what follows. An hour later, his phone rings again. This time, he answers. The voice on the other end is calm, professional, and mildly displeased. The kind of tone that never raises itself because it never needs to. You missed the call yesterday, the voice says. And the follow-up this morning. I did, the rich man replies. A pause. That is not like you. No, he agrees. Another pause, longer this time. We are adjusting timelines because of it. Understand. Silence stretches, testing. This arrangement, the voice continues, was meant to be temporary. So it was everything else, the rich man says. The call ends without resolution. He stands there for a moment longer than usual, then pockets the phone and returns to his truck. His movements are unchanged, but something has shifted inside his chest, a pressure that is familiar enough to recognize. Every choice costs something. This one is no different. Later that afternoon, she notices the first ripple of consequence without knowing its source. A delivery is delayed. Nothing critical, just inconvenient. The kind of delay that forces her to stay later than planned, reorganizing shelves, double-checking inventory, adjusting her schedule. She handles it without complaint. But as dusk settles earlier than expected, she feels the absence of something she has come to rely on. Predictability. When she finally locks up the warehouse, the parking lot is nearly empty. Snow drifts lightly across the asphalt, blurring tire marks as if erasing evidence of the day. She pauses, scanning the road. His truck is not there. She does not panic. She does not assume. She simply notes the absence and drives on. At the bend, the ice has thickened again. The temperature has dropped faster than forecast. She slows, gripping the wheel a little tighter than usual. She makes it through without incident. Still, her shoulders remain tense longer than they should. That night, the wind rises hard, rattling her cabin with sharp insistence. She checks the generator twice, feeds the dogs, moves through her routine with precision, but sleep does not come easily. Not because she is afraid, because something has changed. Across town, the rich man sits at his table, the map of the road unfolded again. He does not look at it the same way tonight. The distances feel different. He thinks about the call, about what he did not say, about what he chose instead. His wealth gives him options. Always has. What does not give him is immunity from consequence. The next morning, he arrives later. Not much later. Just enough. She notices immediately. At the bend, she slows instinctively, then steadies herself. He is there, but his posture is different. More inward, less anchored. She passes him, then brakes lightly and pulls into the turnout a few yards ahead. This time she waits. He watches, processing, then follows and parks behind her, keeping space. She steps out first. "You are late," she says. Not an accusation. An observation. "Yes," the rich man replies. She studies his face, searching for signs of disruption. She finds restraint instead. "Is the road safe today?" she asks. "It is," he answers. "I checked." She nods, relieved despite herself. They stand there for a moment, the cold settling around them. "You do not have to be here," she says. "I know. You do not owe me this." "I know." The repetition lands differently now. She exhales slowly. Something changed. Yes. She waits for more. It has not come, and for the first time, she understands something important. His silence is not avoidance. It is cost. I can adjust my schedule, she says, surprising herself. The rich man looks at her then, really looks at her. No, he says gently. Do not. The word is quiet but firm. That boundary is his now. She nods once, accepting it. They part without resolution, each returning to their own routines, now slightly altered. The days that follow carry subtle strain. He misses another call. She leaves work early one evening without explanation. Neither mentions it. Neither names what is happening. But the space between them has shifted again, not closing, not widening, simply changing shape. Actions, she realizes, always leave traces. Even the quiet ones. Especially the quiet ones. If you have ever chosen presence over convenience, you know this. Feeling. The knowledge that something meaningful is being built, even as something else is quietly being set aside. Nothing has been solved. Nothing has broken. But the cost has been paid in small, precise ways. And both of them feel it. Not as regret, as weight. The kind that reminds you that what you are doing matters. The realization does not arrive as a thought. It arrives as stillness. The rich man notices it one morning when he does not reach for his phone after waking. The habit has been ingrained for years, a reflex shaped by responsibility and expectation. Alerts, messages, decisions waiting to be made. This morning, the phone stays on the table. He sits on the edge of the bed instead, feet planted on the cold floor, breathing slow, aware of the weight of the day without needing to name it. Outside, the sky is already lightening. Alaska does not rush dawn, but it does not hesitate either. He dresses, feeds his dog, prepares coffee. The routine holds, but his attention moves differently through it. Less forward, more inward. At the turnout, he arrives on time. She passes later, steady as always. Their eyes meet briefly through windshields and glass, then separate. No signal, no deviation. And yet, something settles inside him with clarity that surprises him. He is not here because of her. He is here because of who he is becoming. That distinction matters. For weeks, he has framed his choices around proximity, around presence, around the careful balance of not intruding while not disappearing. He believed the tension came from wanting something he could not name. Now he understands. What he wants is not closeness. It is alignment. The road gives him that. The routine does. The silence does. She did not create this version of him. She revealed it. That realization costs him something and gives him something at the same time. Later that day, he returns to his cabin earlier than usual. The call he has been avoiding rings again. He answers it without stepping outside this time. Yes, he says. I know the timeline. A pause. I am aware of the consequences. Another pause. No, he says calmly. This is not temporary. He listens, nodding once, even though no one can see it. I am not stepping away, he continues. I'm stepping differently. The call ends without agreement. That is enough. He sets the phone down and looks around the cabin. The simplicity no longer feels like retreat. It feels like accuracy. That evening, he does something small but deliberate. He leaves the turnout empty. Not because he is leaving, because he is choosing not to center himself around her schedule anymore. Across town, she notices. Not immediately, not dramatically. She notices because the absence feels intentional, not chaotic. She slows at the bend out of habit, then steadies herself and continues on. The road is safe. The ice is manageable. She handles it without assistance, without reassurance. At the warehouse, she works through the day with quiet focus. No delays, no unexpected disruptions. When she locks up, the light is already fading. She sees his truck later, parked farther down the road than usual, angled away from her turnoff. He is inside, engine off, headlights dark. She understands without needing explanation. He is not withdrawing. He is repositioning. That night, she sits at her table with a cup of tea, dogs asleep nearby. The wind presses gently against the walls. She thinks about the way he respected her boundaries from the beginning, how he never tried to earn space by demanding it. She realizes something of her own. Safety is not someone standing nearby at all times. Safety is knowing someone will not take more than what is freely given. The next morning, she changes nothing. Neither does he. They exist on the same road again, but the geometry has shifted. Less orbit, more parallel. When they cross paths at the diner later that week, it is incidental. They acknowledge each other with a nod. No conversation follows. She notices that his posture seems lighter. He notices that her movements seem more relaxed. Neither attributes it to the other. If you're listening and feel something opening quietly in your own awareness, this is the moment to notice it. Not to name it, just to allow it. Sometimes growth does not come from moving closer. Sometimes it comes from standing fully in your own place and realizing you do not need to shrink or reach to be seen. The rich man continues his routine, now less tethered to expectation and more grounded in choice. The woman continues hers, steady and intact. Nothing has been confessed. Nothing has been revealed. And yet, something essential has been understood. Not spoken, but honored by both of them. The routine returns the way it always does in Alaska. Quietly, without ceremony, without asking whether anyone is ready. Morning comes pale and steady. Snow rests where it fell the night before, untouched, as if the land itself has decided nothing needs to change. The rich man wakes at his usual hour. He feeds his dog. He prepares coffee. He moves through the cabin with the same calm efficiency he has practiced for weeks. Nothing in his schedule has shifted back, and yet everything feels different. He is not waiting for the day to begin. He is inside it. At the turnout, he arrives as he always has. Same place, same posture, same attention to the bend in the road. The cold bites his hands, sharp and honest, grounding him in the present moment. She passes a few minutes later. Her car moves smoothly through the curve, tires steady, speed controlled. She does not slow more than necessary. She does not look toward him. He does not look toward her either. And still, the moment holds. Not because of anticipation, because of understanding. They have returned to the original shape of things, but the meaning has shifted. The routine is no longer about watching or being watched. It is about coexistence. Parallel, not intersecting. At the warehouse, she settles into her workday with an ease she has not felt in a long time. Her movements are efficient, unhurried. She adjusts inventory, answers calls, signs paperwork. The familiar rhythm steadies her breathing. Nothing interrupts the flow. At lunch, she sits by the window and watches snow drift past without thinking about who might be on the road. The thought no longer carries weight. This is what safety feels like when it has been internalized. Later that afternoon, the rich man drives north as usual, stopping where the road opens into wide, empty land. He turns off the engine and sits in silence, not searching for anything. The call does not come, and for the first time, he does not notice its absence. He drives home before dark, feeds his dog, prepares dinner. The cabin glows warmly against the early night, a steady point of light in the vast quiet. Across town, she locks her door, hangs her coat, feeds her dogs. The same sequence, the same small comforts. The kettle whistles softly. Steam rises. She sits at her table and exhales. Alaska remains unchanged. The road is still dangerous. The bend still demands respect. The silence still stretches long and wide. But the people moving through it are not the same as they were. The rich man no longer measures his worth by proximity or presence. He understands now that consistency without attachment is a form of strength. The woman no longer measures safety by external reassurance. She trusts her own footing, her own rhythm. In the days that follow, they cross paths occasionally. A nod at the diner, a shared awareness at the bend. Nothing more, nothing less. If you're listening and wondering whether something meaningful has been lost, listen again. Nothing was taken. What was needed was learned. Routine, once used as protection, has become something quieter. A choice, a shared respect for space, timing, and selfhood. Healing does not always end with togetherness. Sometimes it ends with two people standing fully in their own lives, changed by the brief overlap, strengthened by what was never demanded. The road continues. The snow falls. And somewhere in Alaska, two routines move forward, unchanged in shape, transformed in meaning. The last night arrives without a marker. No storm, no event, no reason for it to matter more than any other night. That is why it does. Snow falls lightly, almost politely, settling into the quiet without asking to be noticed. The road lies still beneath it, patient, unchanged. The bend waits, as it always has, holding its shape in the dark. The rich man stands at the window of his cabin, mug warming his hands. The dog sleeps nearby, breathing slow and even. The lights are low. The world outside is wide and calm. He is not thinking about the road. That in itself tells him something. Across town, she finishes her evening the same way she always does. Dishes rinsed, kettle emptied, dogs checked and settled. The cabin hums softly, alive with familiar sounds that no longer feel fragile. She pauses by the window, watching snow drift past the glass. Somewhere beyond the trees, beyond the road, the night holds steady. She does not search for headlights. She does not feel their absence. Both of them sleep deeply. Morning comes the way it always has in Alaska. Pale, cold, unhurried. The rich man wakes, dresses, feeds his dog. He prepares coffee and steps outside, breathing in the clean air. The sky stretches wide overhead, offering no commentary. He does not go to the turnout right away. He walks instead, following the edge of his property where the snow lies untouched. His footsteps leave brief marks that will disappear by noon. He stops, listens, then turns back toward the cabin. Across town, she wakes later than usual. The dogs are already alert, tails thumping softly. She moves through her morning without resistance, without urgency. The road will be there when she reaches it. And it is. She drives carefully, steady, and confident. At the bend, she slows out of habit, then continues through without thinking. No truck waits there. No one follows. The road does not mind. Later that day, the town moves as it always has. Supplies delivered. Coffee poured. Weather discussed without embellishment. Life continues in its small, durable way. They cross paths once more, briefly, without design. At the diner, she stands near the counter, waiting for tea. He sits near the window, hands wrapped around a mug. Their eyes meet for a moment. He nods. She nods back. Nothing else passes between them. And that is enough. If you're listening to this as the day fades, allow yourself to notice what feels different inside you. Not the story, your breath. Slow it. Inhale gently. Exhale longer. Let the quiet settle. The road in Alaska will remain dangerous. The weather will continue to change without warning. Life will keep asking for attention and restraint in equal measure. But sometimes, two lives intersect just long enough to recalibrate. Not to attach, not to rescue, to remind each other of something already there. The rich man returns to his routines, now shaped by intention rather than avoidance. The woman continues hers, grounded in trust that does not depend on proximity. Nothing is closed. Nothing has been promised. The loop remains open, not as uncertainty, but as possibility. And somewhere, perhaps tomorrow, or perhaps much later, a choice will be made again. Or not. For now, the night is calm. The road is quiet, and it is safe to rest. If this story met you where you needed it, let it stay with you gently. And when you are ready, you can return. The road will still be there.